I promise it. I put this on my 3 cats, my brother's dog, and my brothers, and my boyfriend. The little girl literally came next door. She came from next door, knocked on my door, and said, "You guys called me?" And we both looked at each other like, "No, we did not." But it was we were freaked out by it. And she saw us, and she can see that we were freaked out. And we're like, we didn't want to tell her what was going on.
All right, welcome to the New Age Human Podcast. Today we have my friend Kay. We're excited to talk because we're going to talk about hallucinogens and mushrooms and having trips.
Yes.
and why are we going to talk about that? So before we get into that, if you're watching this for the first time or if you have been enjoying the content, please like, share, comment, share with a friend or family that you think will be interested in this stuff. And so that we can get more people that know about this show and we can help more people unlock their potential and thrive in the new age, right? So we're going to talk about hallucinogens. And why are we going to talk about hallucinogens? Well, it's a way to unlock yourself, your powers. Like literally, you have a conversation, like you're like, I have powers.
Legit, with yourself, and you're just like, whoa. Am I the? No, it can't be. The other people have that, but then you really start discovering who you are, exactly. And that's amazing.
So let's get into it. We're going to talk about what got you into hallucinogens and stuff. So yeah, go ahead, man.
So the journey started in 2019, July 2019, the first time ever that I tried shrooms, and it was quite the trip. I was scared. And it took me literally 2 weeks prior to, from the day that I purchased the shrooms to actually take it, simply because of the misconceptions and the stigma that's behind it. So I was just very hesitant on taking it. But when I took it, it was a experience that I found quite interesting. Scary, but not necessarily, but a lot that I knew that I was going to be able to learn from. And that was just my first trip. It wasn't until I started seeing a lot of health issues that I went to doctors for. I took tests. Everything came back normal, as per usual. But, when you just know your body's telling you something different, you just have to find out or figure out what's going on. Because if not, if you just go time without, noticing what's going on or even, trying to fix it, rectify it, things are going to get worse. And that actually happened for me. Instead of going to the doctors, because I've already done that for so many times, I went to my elders. And then when I went to my elders, I'm more of a naturalist. I like more natural, herbs, things of that nature, holistic healing. Mm-hmm. So my grandmother gave me a natural remedy, but that's too much TMI. So we're not even gonna get into that. But I felt that it worked, and I kind of just pondered that idea of our ancestors didn't have this technology, so what helped them heal? And that kind of
so getting into it, what specific challenge health-wise were you having?
So it had a lot to do with I'm not gonna say my reproductive system, but it had a lot to do with the female system.
Yeah, the female system.
It's the female
stuff
system
that I don't have.
Exactly. And it was worrying me because me and my boyfriend were having health issues, and it was just he had his own health issues, and it wasn't like us stepping out of the relationship or nothing. It was just us literally feeling like we're deteriorating and we don't know why.
That's not a fun feeling.
It's not at all. It's not at all.
But feeling like you're deteriorating, are you talking about you were tired? What do you mean by deteriorating? Because I'm thinking about zombies.
Yeah,
your skin wasn't falling off.
It was not. I felt fatigue a lot. I'm thinking that I might be pregnant. It was not that. I'm thinking that potentially my blood count is low. I don't know what it was. So I was just going to anybody for anything. I went to 3-4 different doctors, but the symptoms that I was feeling was, I'm thinking it's a UTI. It's not a UTI. I'm always frequently urinating, but then I kept seeing cloudiness. Brought that up to my OBGYN. She told me to go to my private. It was just felt like I was going in circles.
Yeah, they were giving you the runaround.
Yes.
And interesting. You went to the experts and they were just come back.
Yes.
When things get worse, I'm guessing.
And that's the issue. Why are you, at this point, I'm thinking it's a business for you guys. You are playing with people's lives, and that's something that I'm not gonna say just myself, but so many people that are considered conspiracy theorists, that the government is here for the people, but in reality, let's be honest, they're not. And that's the truth.
So let's get into some of those trips as far as like how did microdosing or getting into hallucinogens help? Because you did say it helped you. Like, how did it help you?
So first and foremost, I wouldn't recommend you just grabbing a handful and eating them, because that's what I always did, and I felt like I benefited a lot, but I wasn't cautious enough because I tripped myself out. Like, I scared myself within these trips, and that was the very beginning. But after a certain point, just recently, I told myself that instead of just me going wild on my days off, I need to be more conscious, because if I'm thinking of going in the route that I want to career-wise with passion, X, Y, and Z,
right,
I need to be able to lead / guide and mentor people that are having similar or different issues that I may not or may know how to handle, So in order for me to properly guide the next person, I want to make sure that I know what I'm doing.
And it's mushrooms. What type of mushrooms was it? Like
Penis King and Bill something, if I'm not mistaken. Those are the only two that I've tried.
Those are actual names, or
yes.
Is that like more local names?
No, those are actual
names.
Those
are like, okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So I'm actually learning more about shrooms and how it affects, and the thing is that it does affect people differently.
Yeah.
Because my brothers, when they did shrooms, their trips was completely different from what I've experienced. So I would definitely say first microdose, unless you just want to go batshit crazy and just, by all means.
And this is entertainment purposes.
Yes.
This is not an educational tool on how to trip balls.
Yes.
And well, if you're not a guy, just trip,
You're
trip
right.
what you have.
Literally.
But so are you saying that, because I know that we're getting into, I'm actually curious. So you were having female reproductive organ, like just system, like it was just out of whack,
and just out of whack.
And the hospitals, the OBGYN, they just didn't have any answers. Okay. So you took Penis King, I guess.
Yes. First time ever, and it was a crazy trip. Yes.
And I want to get into the trip, but did that put your body in, like, was it the trip that made your body like reset? Like, did your body like start getting into a better place, or was it more like a mindset of how you need to take care of your body? I'm very curious.
Yes, no, and the reason why I'm answering that way is because, as far as my body deciding, all right, now it's the time to actually do something about it, it wasn't up until recently in March. But I've been shrooming since, remember, July of 2019, but it wasn't as frequent as it's been within the last month and a half, give or take.
And it's 2023, so that's like 4 years?
Yes.
Okay.
But within those 4 years, my trips in the beginning haven't been, again, as consistent as it has been within the last, I'm going to say 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
But I already knew that my body understood whatever is inside of the mushrooms. And the reason why I say that is because, yeah, I like the trip here and there. It was a great feeling. It helped me, like you said, the mindset. It first targeted my mind. You know what I'm saying? Before the body situation, it had an effect on my mind because it opens your pineal gland. And that's more of a connection to your higher self. Therefore, that connection with God is you're more close and open to it, rather than you being distracted and not open to your higher self when you're just focused on your reality, when there are other realities other than yours, So it took my mindset to get to where it had to get to in order for me to physically feel better now. If that makes sense.
So you're saying a lot of the issues that you were having health-wise was helped with simply just changing your mindset. Now, are you saying it was mindset only, or did you start making like better like food choices because you had more respect for the body? Because you're like, oh shoot, like,
Yes.
So I'm guessing if you're going into like a different world and everything's glowing and there's unicorns, and you're like,
it's not like that unless you think that though.
Okay, cool. That's cool. So let's get into that. Those experiences. I'm pretty sure you listening, you watching, Yeah, like let's talk about some crazy stuff.
This is crazy.
So like,
But I'm not.
So
Maybe.
like, actually, I never tripped like
Okay.
that, right?
Uh-huh.
You could tell because I'm like I'm really bad with like the terminology. I sound like really bad. You know, I'm like, you know,
It's
king
okay, no
penis. I
worries.
never heard of that. So like, yeah, like let's give us a story. Like, give us something that you think people would enjoy.
All right, quick story. Actually, my first trip ever. I was so hesitant on taking it. When I took it, I was like, "Oh, this is not bad. Ain't nothing happening." So I swear to God, I was on the toilet, and I always have a story on the toilet. It's just I don't know what it is, but I was on the toilet, and I'm like, "This is not even him." I get up, it just boom. My reality just shifted like completely, and I'm like, "I'm lit." I look in the mirror, my pupils are dilated like completely. I'm like, "Holy shit!" I'm like, "Do I guess am I scared? I don't know." Keep calm. I keep calm, whatever. And once I get outside, everything's vibrant and bright and beautiful. And I just feel like Oprah, you get a flower, you get a flower. I was having an amazing time until I hit New York. When I hit New York,
What do you mean you hit New York?
I went back to New York because I was over here. So
Wait.
I was at that time I was living with a friend
Okay.
who she had like, younger siblings and her mom was around, but I didn't want to bring that,
So
environment
this
there.
current trip, you were in Connecticut.
Yes.
So now you're talking about other trips. So,
No, the same day I went.
Oh, you tripping for a while.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. So I tripped starting in the house, but then I was making plans already to go to New York because I told my girls like, hey, listen, I'm about to try the shrooms. And my homegirl that I got it from, she was like, you still haven't tried it? I'm like, no, because I'm scared. I'm trying it now. She was like, all right, well, good luck. If you're gonna come over here, let us know, we'll pick you up. And that's exactly what they did because they knew that I was tripping for the first time, so they wanted to make sure that I was okay. But let me tell you, shrooms are definitely, it has a lot to do with your emotions.
Wait, so what happened when you went to New York? You said it went crazy.
Yeah, that's all I'm about to get into.
Sorry. I'm
It's
getting
okay.
like impatient. I'm like,
I'm sorry, the suspense is
I'm
killing,
looking
right?
for unicorns. That's what I'm looking for.
You won't see unicorns unless you take OD and you just don't know what the fuck you're doing.
Okay.
Because I saw a dragon's eye on my doorknob. That shit was unraveling. It was pretty cool. Yeah, I know, right? But I go to New York and I just had this urge of writing a fucking paper. Like a paper on psychedelics. Because I started seeing like, this is not as bad as what people think. It's not. I feel amazing. I don't feel groggy. I started reading, like actually researching what mushrooms are, like what it does, how it affects people. It didn't give me that sluggish feel that marijuana always gave me in the past, Don't get me wrong, I still like marijuana, but it's not like my choice of drug anymore simply because I see that it affects other parts of my body that I don't like. So I just stick with the shrooms because it's helped me. It hasn't hindered me at all. So whereas I see weed, it makes me feel like I'm not productive enough. Whereas shrooms, psychedelics, they make me feel productive as hell. Like, I'm always here writing. I'm here discovering about myself, what I don't like, what I can tolerate, what I can't tolerate. Should I have this person around? Is this person worthy of my energy? Is this person like worthy of being a good person? Do they have the potential of becoming a better person? It makes you think a lot and reevaluate not just yourself, but the life choices you make, the people you have in your life, how you can be a better daughter, son, granddaughter, grandson. Just being a better person overall.
It's interesting because you're saying a lot of you're asking a lot of deep questions that is really good to ask, and not enough people ask those questions.
Right.
And I can see that. Let me ask you, before having those experiences, were you asking those questions?
No, I was angry.
You were angry.
I was a very angry person just simply because of the mistreatment of not just strangers, but friends, even family, And I've realized that I became a product of my environment, which is the reason why I had to make a conscious decision and uprooting myself and wanting more for myself, So everything happens for a reason. Every decision happens even if it's a bad one, it leads you to a discovery that you may have not known beforehand. So I feel like my mistakes made me the woman that I am today. So I don't regret anything I've done. Maybe words, I could have said better things, yes. But as far as making the decisions, it's led me up to who right now.
Are you saying before you were angry? And I feel like after having this experience or plethora of experiences over the last 4 years, would you say you're more of a positive person?
Yes.
And when you're not hallucinating, would you say that it stayed with you and you continued on? Like you're like, oh, I need to think deep. And where's my mushrooms? Like it just kind of like opened something for you, I'm guessing. Okay, 100%. Cool. That's awesome.
And I was afraid of that. I'm glad that you brought that question up because I was scared. I'm like, am I going to be able to function without these shrooms? Like, I felt like a crackhead at that point. I'm like, am I? But then I even experimented with that because I'm like, you know what? For the next 2 days, I won't. Whereas before, I didn't have self-discipline. I didn't have no type of control. I was just binge eating. I was sleeping late. I didn't have no type of discipline for myself. Whereas now, after these experiences, it's made me realize that there are things that I need to control. My eating habits, horrible. I'm a fat ass at heart, but horrible. But because of the last 2-3 weeks, it's made me realize that I need to be more lightweight in the sense of what I eat, what I watch, what I read. You know, the things that you consume is really gonna, enlighten you or keep you down and distracted.
I want to get into that story that you told me. I think people would like that. When you, let's just say when you had a superpower. I don't want to say what it is. Do it.
Okay, so this one experience, I was with a friend and me and her, we were going through a lot of shit personally, right? But we was like, you know what, let's try it together. It was not much things we could do right now because it was cold and, boring as hell. I didn't have, I was just like moving into my apartment at that time. But it was like, all right, help. We'll try it. So we tried and everything's going good until one point, I don't know what the hell happened. I think I ate a little too much or I freaked myself out. I don't know. But all I see is this picture of like, I don't know if any of y'all seen Spawn, Johnny Gazamo's character. I forget his name.
He's like that weird demon
clown. Penguin looking mofo, right? So anyway, that just popped up into my head. Like I envisioned that and I got scared. When I turned to my right, and mind you, everything in the house is just like dark. There's no lights on, no nothing. Because our vision was, we can see well. It wasn't like we fucking can't see nothing. But I just didn't want the bright lights to mess with my eyes. But when I turned around, I see Shorty looking at me. And I got freaked out. I closed the door dumb quick. And all I hear is her voice in my head saying, Kayla, don't freak out, but don't talk to that. Don't talk to me, basically. Because she wasn't in her body. Her conscious, I guess, was around and I was able to hear her. I heard her. And the thing is that when you hear these people, you can tell whether or not like it's them or not. You know what I'm saying?
So she said, don't talk to that, meaning the clown.
Whatever entity, we're going to call it entity, whatever energy or entity was in her body, her conscious told me that was in my brain, don't talk to that because it can be deceiving and you could potentially have a conversation or open a gateway to something that you don't want things coming through.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was just like, you know what? But I knew that it wasn't something friendly because your intuition will tell you.
Yeah.
100%, But the spirit that was closely related to her, that she called it Tink. I don't know. I had a little spirit that I called Mickey because it just sounds like Mickey, but that's neither here or there. Y'all all have your own experiences because everybody has spirit guides and spirits that are closely connected to them because of this their lineage or their ancestors.
Let's get back to that story.
But anyway, sorry. So then at one point, I was scared. She told me not to worry, that I'm okay, but to not feed into it, because the more energy you feed into it, the more it grows, the more it's gonna feed off of your energy. So cool, that was one point. And then after that whole situation happened, like me and her were like, it would be crazy. We would to call some other girl that's closely related to us. I'm not gonna say no names, but we started talking about her in our minds, conversing, like actually communicating, like telepathically, about how she would have reacted based off of the experiences that we were experiencing. And lo and behold, a minute or two after, I promise you, I put this on my 3 cats, my brother's dog, and my brothers, and my boyfriend. The little girl literally came next door. She came from next door, knocked on my door, and said, "You guys called me?" And we both looked at each other like, "No, we did not." But it was we were freaked out by it. And she saw us and she can see that we were freaked out. And we're like, we didn't want to tell her what was going on. But we ended up eventually telling her. She's like, that's interesting. But before we told her, I was back on the toilet. I just have a thing with toilets when I'm on shrooms. I just love the toilet. She was in my room, and me and her were talking, and she ended up saying, asking the little girl, "Can you get me water?" And when she was walking to the kitchen, she had told me, "Damn, I should have told her I want ice." And she ends up like, she said, "No, you get the ice by yourself." We hear her in the kitchen. We're like, "You heard us?" And she's like, "What do you mean? I just heard you guys speak." And we were like, "But you heard us speak, or did you just hear us?" She said, "No, I just heard you." So she didn't hear us verbally say it. She just heard us telepathically.
So when you asked for ice,
not me, my friend.
Your friend.
Mm-hmm.
So were you telepathically having the conversation,
yep.
and your friend was in the same room?
So our bathroom, my friend was in my room where I could see directly into it. The other girl was in the kitchen.
Okay.
So we were all three different places.
Because you're tripping.
Yeah.
So she could have technically verbally said it, but I wanted to know the actual situation.
Yeah, right.
And if someone's in the other room and she wasn't shouting, she was just like saying, "Oh man."
No, not even. She was saying it in her mind.
So this was.
So I heard her. You know what I'm saying? I heard my friend saying that comment after she already asked my other friend to get her water. She said in her mind, "Damn, I should have told her to get me ice." And I said, "Yeah, I know, right?" And then she goes, "You get your own ice," out loud. So I'm like, me and her looked at each other quick, like, you tripping or I'm tripping. We both tripping, so we can't even say that. So then at one point, we had to bring her in the room and like be honest with her and like, "Did you hear us say X, Y, Z?" And she was like, "No. I thought it, I heard it, like, but I didn't think much of it." And then that's when we told her, like, "Yo, listen, we didn't say nothing, but for you to hear us, this is what's going on."
That's nuts.
And she was like, "Okay, I'll see you tomorrow." So
and she just took it.
Yeah,
was just like, all right.
And it was a good experience because there were answers to questions that I've had before, but I never knew like it was a thing until I actually experienced it. And people are not going to believe anything until they see it. They need proof, concrete evidence. So I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here to share my experiences with you all.
Okay, thanks for sharing that story of being telepathic with your friend. I think that's awesome. Because from what I understand, when you are ingesting anything, any hallucinogen, it's activating what you have. It's not giving you the ability to do things. It's more of unlocking, which is even more exciting because that means that you have all the stuff to literally talk to someone without needing a cell phone, without shouting. You can just think something. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. And I've had conversations with you. You think about somebody and they call.
Yep.
Or someone's thinking about you and like it's just like we're all connected.
Yes,
and
100%.
It's like, and what you're doing is you're just kind of like bringing that to the surface. So I think that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So awesome story. But I do definitely, because we're talking about this, I definitely want to get into, as we finish up, what are the precautions, like what to avoid?
I've learned to be disciplined. And the reason why I say it is because I feel like all of us have to go through a certain experience in order for us to be educated or educate other people, But at the same time, it's like I should have never taken the amount without cautiously weighing it, because I had trips that I was crying for hours and I'm like, I don't know why I'm crying, but it's because it has a lot to do with your emotions too. If you aren't regulating your emotions could go through the roof. You can end up potentially hurting somebody you love. You could potentially kill yourself. You could potentially, because again, my first trip, I had a really amazing trip until the very end when I felt other people's energy. And that almost caused an actual fight between me and my best friend at the time, little cousin. And I'm thankful that things didn't, escalate. But at the same time, that made me realize, like, this is a very serious drug that people have to know how to maneuver through it and navigate with it. But I would definitely say it's not a scary drug. And the thing is that anything could be a drug. A person could be a drug. Reading could be an addiction. Anything could be an addiction. But you have to regulate the things that you do, and you have to be conscious of the decisions you make. But I highly recommend shrooming, especially for those people who feel very lost, just wandering, don't know what to do with life, or want something new, because that will spark like that little inspiration that you are looking for. Everybody needs inspiration. Everybody has motivation, but not inspiration. And I've always been this person I aspire to inspire.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, I'm guessing that dosage wise,
mm-hmm. 1 gram always. Start 1 gram and then work your way up. Okay. I agree with that. Okay.
Because I know that, with edibles, with
mm-hmm.
cannabis, like, I guess we call it THC.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, people are affected differently.
Of course.
So you saying like across the board, 1 gram
yes.
is like considered safe.
Yes.
And as far as like sourcing,
yes,
and where you get it from, I'm sure it's like huge.
Of course.
So be
definitely.
mindful of that.
Definitely. Okay. Because I've actually had one friend of mine in the past who sold me some shrooms, and 2-3 hours later, I'm like, what's going on? Like, she had to refund me my money. So definitely be cautious of where you're getting it from. I only have 3 particular people that I get my stuff from, and I don't go to anybody else because I have that trust in them. You have to build trust with people who are selling you products that you can potentially get in trouble from. So just be aware and cautious of who you do business with. Have trust before you actually purchase anything.
Okay, cool. Thank you for sharing and coming. And that was a wild story.
Have more.
I know.
Anytime.
Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see about talking about some other experiences. But
sure.
I like that idea. I liked how there's just different ways to find a deeper part of yourself, to think outside of the box. And it's interesting how you were able to better your health because of a mentality. So it's very interesting how that will cycle you, or have you go make better decisions, and just by thinking differently about yourself, about your world, it's almost like you had higher respect for yourself and in the world, and through that respect you started to treat it differently. So it's interesting. Well, thank you for coming on the show. And if you enjoyed what you saw, or you have questions, feel free to send me a message. My information will be in the description of whether it be a YouTube video or the podcast. You can contact me, and I'll relay the message to Kay if you want to. So that's all. Let's go. See ya.
Later. Have a good one. That actually went really well. I was not nervous at all.
The information provided in this podcast is based on personal experience and opinion, and is intended for entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. The host, guests, and publisher of this podcast are not responsible for any adverse effects or consequences resulting from the use of any suggestions or recommendations made in this podcast. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of New Age Human, its subsidiaries, or any entities they represent.